Preparations are underway for the proclamation of the next president and vice president next week. Senate President Tito Soto warns of a constitutional crisis if the Supreme Court will grant the petitions to stop the canvassing of votes for presumptive President Bongbong Marcos. Senator Franklin Drilon says the Supreme Court cannot issue a temporary restraining order to stop the proclamation of the new president and vice president. The vaccine expert panel warns daily COVID-19 cases may triple because of the BA.2.12.1 Omicron subvariant. And medal haul continues for Team Pilipinas in the 31st SEA Games. Focused and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Sean Yao. Congress is all set to convene as the National Board of Canvassers to proclaim the next president and vice president by next week. Here's the report.
It's almost all systems go at the Batasang Pambansa for the upcoming canvassing of votes for president and vice president. Aside from the preparations being done outside of the venue, the session hall of the Batasan is now brightly lit after a renovation of the area. Digital boards have also been put up for this year's canvassing, a departure from the usual whiteboard tallying of canvassed votes. There are also document scanners that can project certificates of canvass in the big screen.
Ready na tayo, ready na yung house sa canvassing next week. So all systems go na tayo. So tapos yung meeting yesterday naman was nag-briefing lang yung team sa mga members natin, members ng canvassing committee ng part ng house.
A total of 160 people will be allowed inside the session hall to observe the canvassing. A negative antigen test is still needed to enter the Batasan, along with appropriate accreditation forms. The NBOC assures the public that they will be transparent with this year's canvassing.
Or 99.88% yata nung validation ng pag-check nila, comparing it with the digital transmissions were actually accurate. No? So I think this election has been very transparent. Technology has helped us a lot, and participation of the people has been at an all-time high. So we will give due course naman with what the people wanted, who they voted for.
Some of the congressmen joining the canvassing committee include current House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, Majority Leader Martin Romualdez, who's eyeing the speakership, Congressman Boying Remulla, Abraham Tolentino, Rempi Bondok, Stella Kimbo, Christine Singson Mihan, and Sharon Garin. While Juliet Ferrer, Kiko Benitez, Manix Dalipe are among the reserve or alternate committee members. The canvassing committee assures that all camps will be well represented.
Lahat naman na abogado, they will make their appearance, no? I-recognize sila. So everybody will have a chance to be represented during that. And ang NBOC na to has their rules na rin on the different stages. I think well represented naman ang lahat-lahat. If we have issues, I think it's more on, if it's more on the returns, then that will be entertained. Pero ibang issues kasi baka isama no? Pero I think we will stick to the canvassing lang.
The ballot boxes containing the COCs are set to arrive on Monday, May 23rd from the Senate as regular session resumes. On the 24th, the lower and upper houses will convene as the National Board of Canvassers to proclaim the next president and vice president, for which they will make an announcement on May 27th. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
Senate President Tito Soto warns of a, quote, constitutional crisis should the Supreme Court grant petitions seeking to suspend the canvassing of votes. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us the front seat to the story.
A constitutional crisis. This was Senate President Tito Soto's warning should the Supreme Court grant 2 petitions to stop the vote canvassing for presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. This came after some groups raised their bids to the SC, one to disqualify Marcos Jr. and one to cancel his COC. Both petitions seek a temporary restraining order against both chambers of the Congress. But for Soto, such move will cause a dilemma as the 18th Congress is set to adjourn on June 3. And by the time lawmakers meet again, it will already be under a new administration. Soto also questioned that if the SC favors the petitioners, who will then conduct the canvass of votes? For his part, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon believes the petitions would not prosper. Drilon said the High Tribunal cannot restrain Congress from performing its constitutional duty of canvassing votes and proclaiming the winner. The Senate and the House of Representatives are set to resume sessions next week. They will begin the official count of votes for President and Vice President. Speaking to the Chiefs, former SC spokesperson Theodore Te expressed optimism that the SC would reconsider COMELEC's decision on the cancellation of Marcos Jr.'s candidacy.
Kasi siyempre, eleksyon ang pinag-uusapan, no? So they're a bit more strict siguro, if I may call it that, no? So let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's just put it that way.
Meanwhile, the SC earlier ordered the COMELEC, Marcos Jr., and both chambers of Congress to comment on the petition seeking to cancel the presumptive president's candidacy. The SC is giving the respondents 15 days to file their comments. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
And former Integrated Bar of the Philippines President Domingo Cayosa doubts that a constitutional crisis will arise over petitions to halt the canvassing of votes for Marcos Jr. The former IBP president explains on One News's The Big Story that even if a TRO is issued against the present Congress, the next one can still eventually do the canvassing. For now, Cayosa urges Filipinos to avoid speculating or preempting the Supreme Court's decision. Cayosa also said that regardless of the canvassing results in Congress, the Supreme Court can continue presiding over petitions against Bongbong Marcos.
Regardless of the result of the canvassing, the Supreme Court can continue discussing and deciding the petitions. We should not speculate or preempt the Supreme Court. We should encourage it instead to resolve the issues sooner than later.
For Senate Minority Leader Frank Drilon, the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction to issue a TRO preventing Congress from proclaiming the next president and vice president. Drilon also believes that justices will practice restraint over the matter, saying it's even more terrifying if the country ends up with no official president and vice president by June 30. The former Justice Secretary says if there is no progress at the SC by the end of June, these petitions could fall into the hands of the Presidential Electoral Tribunal.
Sa aking tingin, yan po ay ililipat sa Presidential Electoral Tribunal. Yan po ay Korte Suprema din ang kumakatawan niyan. Siyang magde-decide sa kodifikasyon ng Pangulo, Pangalawang Pangulo at sa mga protesta tungkol dito sa dalawang posisyon ito.
And the vaccine expert panel warns that daily COVID-19 cases could hit 500 amid the local transmission of the BA.2.12.1 Omicron subvariant. And that is why they welcome the rollout of the second booster shots for senior citizens and health workers. JC Cosico reports.
In recent weeks, the country's average daily COVID-19 cases has reached 160 according to the Health Department. But with the local transmission of the Omicron subvariant BA.2.12.1, an uptick in infections is expected in areas with low vaccination rates. Experts warn cases may reach up to 500 daily, which is triple the current average. Infectious disease expert Dr. Ronjin Solantes says Metro Manila, which has recorded a case of the latest Omicron subvariant, may experience a surge in infections.
NCR na ang population natin is very very dense, no? And yung mobility na dito lahat. So expected yan na talagang mayroong pagtataas ng mga kaso na because of this variant.
But Solante insisted this may not affect our hospitalization rates.
The virus is highly transmissible. For the general population, it may not cause more severe infection, no? But ang tinitingnan natin dito, yung mga vulnerable population. And if there will be uptick in terms of rate of hospitalization, most likely, these are the vulnerable population.
Despite this, the expert says the public, especially the members of the vulnerable sector, must remain vigilant against the virus. That's why it's a welcome development. Authorities recently allowed the rollout of the second COVID booster shot for senior citizens and health workers. In Mandaluyong City, many senior citizens have received their fourth dose.
Para proteksyon sa bagong variant na dumadating. Matanda na ako.
You're not sure kung ano yung virus na to eh. Hindi mo alam kung ano yung virus na to eh, kung gaano ka ano. Kung madali ka man, hindi dapat severe siguro. Sana. Hopefully.
Moderna and Pfizer shots are being used for the second booster vaccination of the A1 and A2 sectors. The jab will be administered at least 4 months after their first booster dose.
Mahalaga makatanggap ang senior citizens and medical frontliners aside from the immunocompromised population ng second booster. Merong mga comorbidities ang mga senior citizens that makes them highly susceptible to contract the virus. As for the medical health workers, given the nature of our job, if we get exposure with the virus, can lead us to having the disease rin.
But the Mandaluyong LGU admits convincing the public to receive booster shots remains to be a challenge.
Unfortunately, marami kasi yung kontento now with the primary dose. So, all we do is to educate them.
For additional protection, the vaccine experts panel said authorities must also look into the possibility of rolling out booster shots for 5 to 11-year-olds. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
And Team Pilipinas continues on its hunt for a sought-after podium finish at the 31st SEA Games. The 4-man men's bowling team delivered strike after strike to win the gold 3 days after Merwin Tan reigned supreme in the men's singles. In judo, Riina Furukawa was awarded the gold in the women's 57-kilogram event, her first gold after a bronze finish in the Manila Games. And looking at the medal tally, nothing can prevent host country Vietnam from running away with the overall title with only 3 days of competition left. Thailand has likewise pulled away from the Philippines, which has dropped to 5th overall. And every gold medal won or lost from here on will matter for Team Pilipinas and will determine whether we can climb back up the podium. Olympic gold medalist Heidelin Diaz hopes to start the country's final stretch as she takes the stage in the women's 55-kilogram weightlifting division today. Our athletes in tennis, badminton, and billiards will also get more chances to bag more golds today. For the full schedule of the games, head on over to SeaGames2021.com. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us again later at 9 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Sean Yao. Masks on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.